I want to go back to the phone lines now. Denise, Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Hi.
Hi, Hank. This is the first time I've ever called. I've been listening to you for years, and I've been a Christian for over 38 years. And I share the gospel with everybody I can, including cults and different religions. And I've had a problem lately because I keep running into it over and over again. And the question they keep coming up with, and I mean, I've studied the subject hell over and over again. I looked at the Greek, the Hebrew, you name every single thing. Like I've got interlinear Bibles, and it doesn't say hell, it says Gehenna, which is an actual place. And then I even read a commentary saying that that word, when Jesus was speaking, was actually fulfilled in 70 A.D. when the priest's blood was running down that hill, Gehenna. And so the one commentator said that it was when Jesus was warning the Pharisees of the time of slaughter. I guess Jeremiah had prophesied there would be a great slaughter in that valley. And so I did a whole history on that. And then, but the question that keeps coming up is the one in Matthew when Jesus says, love your enemies and bless those, and pray for those that persecute you, and then you will be called complete, just as your Father in heaven is. Well, people say to me, well, okay, Jesus tells us to love our enemies, and yet people that refuse, don't want to accept him, then he tortures them after. Then he's our example, and he's called the friend of sinners, but as soon as they leave location, he's no longer their friend anymore. If he's still a friend, he sure doesn't treat them well, right? And so they ask me these questions, and and it's caused a big stumbling block because these are people that have been in churches all their life, and suddenly now they feel that something is wrong here, that we have been not looking at this hell from a proper way. And they say, why doesn't Paul talk about, he never uses the word Gehenna the way Jesus did, right?
Well, remember, the word Gehenna is a word that does conjure up images of eternal conscious torment, but never torture, as though God is sticking us with a pitchfork or something like that. The torment is to be absent the loving grace and goodness of God for all eternity, because God gives us what we want, which is to say that God is not a cosmic rapist. He doesn't force himself on people. If you say, I don't want a relationship with you, God, then God not only ratifies that in time, but he ratifies that in eternity. So if...
Did you get that from Gehenna?
No, Gehenna is simply a way of talking about being absent the presence of God for all eternity. So what you have is imagery that Jesus Christ is using to communicate a profound reality. And that profound reality is separation from the glory and goodness of God for all eternity.
But doesn't it talk about the carcasses and the vultures will be gathered over? It speaks of definitely death, and there was a great death that happened. And I agree with you on end times.
But this is a way of codifying the horrors of hell vividly. Gehenna is a Greek word, and it conjures up, as you say, images of bones, burning bodies, birds tearing flesh off of rotting corpses, a place where the worm does not die, as the Bible says, where the fire is not quenched. And the Old Testament prophets spoke of a deep, narrow gorge southeast of Jerusalem, called Gehenna, as it were, or the Valley of Ben Hinnom, in which idolatrous Israelites would offer up child sacrifices to Moloch and Baal and the like. And as a result, this became known as a dump heap, a place of destruction by fire in Jewish tradition. And so this is a word that conjures up, as I said, what it will be to be forever separated from the goodness and grace of God for all eternity. But we can't take the biblical terms and try to make them walk on all fours. They are meant to communicate a far more graphic reality, and that is, again, being absent the goodness of God, to be desolate, as it were, to have the imago Dei, or the image of God, erased in humanity. So it's not something that we want to take in a wooden literal sense. We want to take it in the sense in which it's intended.
Yeah, but you're trying to reach people for Christ, and they bring up your God is so evil that because you refuse me, I'm going to put you in a place where forever.
No, think about it this way. I've repeated this on the show because I think it's probably the best way you can explain it. But C.S. Lewis used to say there are only two kinds of people in the world. Those who say to God, "Thy will be done," on bended knees, and those to whom God in the end says, "Thy will be done," which is to say, those to whom God says, if you do not want a relationship with me, I'm going to grant you your will or your wish. And then they're separated from him for all eternity. If there was no hell, there couldn't be any heaven. The righteous would inherit a counterfeit heaven, and the unrighteous would be incarcerated in heaven against their will, which is a torment worse than hell. As you can hear from the music, I'm coming to a station break, but I've written about this in my book, Afterlife, so you can really have an understanding of what hell is and what it is not. Afterlife, available for your gift. You can check it out at equip.org. Be right back.